Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer 55551, and I am back with a video review. And for this review, we're going to be taking a look at Bravely Default 2, the sequel to the first Bravely Default and somewhat of Bravely Second that was originally released on the Nintendo 3DS years ago. Bravely Default 2 is for the Nintendo Switch, and if you're interested in any gameplay footage, assuming you're watching this on YouTube, I'll have a link down in the description down below, or you can click on the card that will appear up on this video. During the Game Boy Advance, 3DS and 3DS era, all three of those systems were known to get a lot of RPGs, particularly JRPGs. It often earned the dub, and some may or may not agree with the statement, the mecca of known for being the mecca for RPGs, and that's what something the Game Boy Advance, the DS, and the 3DS were basically known for. One of the 3DS games that was released back then was Bravely Default, which, interestingly enough, did well, if I remember this correctly, for Square Enix, and they didn't expect the game to do well at all, and it apparently did. This followed up with Bravely Second, though, which, from what I understand, some people liked it, some people didn't, though. I unfortunately never got a chance to play those two kind of games, and I do think it's kind of a disappointment, though, because I probably missed out on some pretty good RPGs back then. So it was sort of interesting during one of the video game awards when it was shown. I believe it was either 2019 or 2020, when it was announced that Bravely Default 2 was in the works and it would be coming to the Nintendo Switch. This certainly caught my attention on it, and I thought I would give the game a go. Well, they did do basically two different demos for that game came out, and during my time with the game, during my time with those demos, though, I definitely liked the direction they were going with it, and basically I definitely felt like I was getting a bit of a Octopath Traveler vibe out of the game, which certainly isn't a bad thing at all. Well, now that the game has finally come out, though, I honestly have to say that I definitely like what Square Enix did with Bravely Default 2. It's definitely an enjoyable game indeed, but there are certainly two little issues I do have with the game. So why don't we get started with the pros and cons, and we'll start off first with the pros. And the first one is basically the gameplay. And the best way to sum it up is the gameplay follows basically a classic old school style JRPG type of approach, though. You still, you have your wander around the map, fighting enemies and all that stuff, although one difference is that Bravely Default 2, the enemy, you could either avoid or run up to the enemies, or if you attack them first, you'll get the Bravely points and all that stuff, compared to Octopath Traveler, which is basically randomized battles and all. But either way, you have, your HP, magic points, and all that stuff. But what's interesting, though, is a couple things, though. You have basically are these jobs, and you can assign them for each of the four characters that you have. You can assign like maybe a freelancer, which basically offers certain abilities, like the ability to scan to see the strength and weaknesses of an enemy and all that stuff, sort of similar to what you see with Octopath Traveler in a way, to basically digging up areas to find like items and all that stuff. Then of course you have your white mage, which are like cures, or being able to resurrect a party member that dies in battle, to curing any kind of spells they may have, like poison, silence, and all that stuff, to basically black mages, though, which are basically use fire, wind, water, and ice, though, to even finding different other jobs as well. Some of them could be like the ability to be a knight that could basically change the type of weapons you can use, to others where you can basically sing that can also improve basically your status, like taking more hits if someone uses a spell or a physical weapon, all that stuff. So it's a modern twist and all that, and I definitely like this approach indeed. On top of that, though, I'm definitely getting a bit of a Octopath Traveler vibe out of the game, which certainly isn't necessarily a bad thing at all. So in terms of gameplay, though, it's an old school style JRPG with some modern stuff into it, more like into some of the Octopath Traveler approach, indeed. But either way, the gameplay is definitely good. And last but not least, I do want to talk about is the visuals in Bravely Default 2. And I will say the visuals in Bravely Default 2 are definitely not bad or anything like that. Basically, the visuals, when you go into town, they have basically a hand-drawn style to it with, 3D models and all that, to basically wandering around out in the field and some of the enemies. I mean, I will say some of the character designs look very nice indeed, and I definitely like some of the art style in the game. So from a visual standpoint, though, I will say Bravely Default 2 definitely looks nice, though. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we'll get to part 2, which are the cons. So we'll take a little break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of our video review of Bravely Default 2 for the Nintendo Switch. So now that I gave you the pros, why don't we get started with the cons? And there are only really 2 cons I could think of in regards of my review of Bravely Default 2. We'll start off with the first one, and this one has to do with the visuals to a certain degree. Now, as I mentioned in the pros, I did enjoy the visuals and all, and I will say the game does look good, even for a game on the Nintendo Switch. Having said that, though, if I were to compare which of the visuals I would like better, Octopath Traveler or Bravely Default 2, I have to say, and maybe I'm just being picky, maybe it's just me, it's just that I like the visuals in Octopath Traveler more than Bravely Default 2. Maybe because I like that high 2D HD look that the Octopath Traveler had. It definitely gives off a little bit of that 8-bit, 16-bit vibe to the game, which adds a unique style to it. So, excuse me. So, in terms of the visuals wise, I have to say Octopath Traveler looks better than Bravely Default 2. Not that I'm saying Bravely Default 2 looks bad at all. It's not an awful looking game or anything like that. It's a good looking game for what it is on the Nintendo Switch, and it is impressive. It is an impressive game, especially considering it's running on Unreal Engine 4 and all. Same with Octopath Traveler as well. That's run on Unreal Engine 4 as well. But like I said, between the two, I have to go with Octopath Traveler over Bravely Default, though. Again, I'm aware not everyone will agree with me on that, but that's my position on it. And last but not least, I do want to talk about, as much as I enjoy the gameplay and the JRPG, though, the game, there are going to be times when the game does feel a little bit grindy, though. Some of this has to do with basically the jobs, though. The thing about the jobs is that you can carry both your main job and your sub job and all that. So if, let's say, for example, you use basically one of your characters, you have them as a white mage, basically you could have a black mage as their sub job, though. That's, in ways, that's all fine and dandy, but there is sort of a catch to it. You see, when you level up your character, you level up also your jobs as well. The thing is that only your main job is the one that's leveled up, not your sub jobs, though. So when you're leveling up your main jobs, you're unlocking spells and everything and all that. That's not the case with your sub jobs and all, and this does make the game a little bit grindy and all. And some people may be okay with this, and some people may not be okay with it, though. I'm not as bothered by it as much as some might be, but I will admit to a certain degree, it can be a little bit annoying every now and then. But like I said, it doesn't ruin the game for me, but there's no denying the fact that the game can be grindy every now and then. Overall, though, I do have to say Bravely Default 2 is still a fun game, and definitely one I would recommend if you have a Nintendo Switch or if you're into RPGs, particularly old school RPGs, or if you like the style of games like I Am Tsushima or Octopath Traveler and all. The gameplay is still as enjoyable in here, including with the BD points and all, and that game definitely does have a little bit of that Octopath Traveler vibe out of it, which certainly isn't a bad thing at all. And the visuals, I will say, do look good, though. That said, though, I still think between the two, I still think Octopath Traveler looks a little bit better. Maybe because I like the art style to that, you know, the 2D HD look, though. But like I said, some people may not 100% agree with me on that, though. And I will admit, to a certain degree, the game can be a bit grindy at time, and this has to do with the jobs, especially when you have one is your main job and one is your sub job, and that your main job is the one that will level up, not your sub jobs, and that can make things a little bit grindy. But like I said, some people will be okay with this, some people won't. I'm not as bothered by this as much as others might be, but either way, though, I still enjoyed Bravely Default 2. It's a fun game. I'm still enjoying it, though, and I do hope perhaps that Square Enix can do basically a Bravely Default 3. If that ever does happen, though, we'll see how well the game does in terms of sales wise. And I certainly would be down with more of these smaller RPGs like Bravely Default 2 or like Octopath Traveler. Although I will admit I wouldn't mind some of the bigger RPGs and all that stuff. And if Square Enix ever does this, if they ever decide to remake the first Bravely Default or Bravely Second, though, for the Nintendo Switch, I definitely would be down with that, though. I think after playing Bravely Default 2, I kind of, to a certain degree, is kind of kicking myself not being able to not playing the first or Bravely Second on the Nintendo 3DS when that came out. But either case, though, Bravely Default 2 is a fun game. I like these small RPGs that Square Enix is doing. I wouldn't mind them doing more of these kind of smaller RPGs on the Nintendo Switch. Like I said, I would prefer some of the bigger ones, but I'm happy with these small ones indeed. So either way, I enjoyed Bravely Default 2. Hopefully you will enjoy it as much as I do, though. Okay, this concludes my video review of Bravely Default 2 for the Nintendo Switch. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about Bravely Default 2? Have you tried the game out? Do you like these kind of RPGs that Square Enix is doing for the Nintendo Switch? Do you think they should continue doing some of these smaller RPGs? Or do you think that basically they should try bringing some of the bigger RPGs, like the Dragon Quest 11, assuming I get the number right and all, like those kind of RPGs? Do you think this game is an improvement over the first Bravely Default or Bravely Second, or do you think those versions are better than Bravely Default 2? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, and assuming you're watching this on YouTube, sound off in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And if you like this video, I hope you hit the like button. That would be great. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You can do it through PayPal me or Patreon. Links will be in the description of this video, assuming you're watching this on YouTube. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye!